Hey, everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Diamond Discussion. I am your host, Demetrius Woods, and today we're going to talk about 5 things that don't matter in our sport. We're also going to cover figuring out how committed your players truly are to your program. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, guys, welcome back to the show once again. Before we jump into any topics, I just want to give a big, huge thank you to all of our fans, all of our listeners. Over 5,000 listeners within the first week of episode number 4 with Maddie Speaks. So I think that's more of a testament to her probably than it is to me. But either way, thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope it inspired, challenged, and or encouraged a lot of you. But with that said, let's jump right into the topics of this episode right here. And the first thing is going to be the 5 things that I feel don't matter. They have no place in our game whatsoever. And I think you can really apply this to any sport. All right. So number one on that list is what level of college you go to. And for me, guys, this is one that it's not really a pet peeve, but it's pretty dang close because it's something that I hear get talked about so much around our game. A lot of people are very much, Division One or bust, and I understand. There's parents out there. There's high expectations. I've even had this conversation with my wife, even just sitting in the living room, and it's like, I know some parents invest so much time, money, energy, all of that jazz into, hitting lessons and pitching lessons and bats and gloves and cleats every single year. It's a lot that goes into it. And so it's like, yeah, I want my kid to go play at the highest level possible. And I totally understand moms and dads and, guardians where you're coming from on that front. But I'm just of the belief that it's not a D1 or bust lifestyle to live because honestly, everybody's not fit. Everybody's not cut out to go play at the Division One level. And I'm not even just talking about from the standpoint of skill set. Like your kid may be good enough to go play Division One or even Division Two softball, but maybe they don't have the right mentality to make it in that at that level, right? There's a lot of nuances that come with playing at a higher level, right? When you get TV involved and you get just media and all sorts of other things that don't aren't necessarily a part of the game, maybe at a lower level per se, that your kid may not be prepared for, or maybe academically it doesn't make sense. So again, all that to be said, what level of college you go to me doesn't matter, especially when it comes to competing in the game of softball. I've said this before and many times on previous episodes. Like the what you prepare for matters, obviously, but like what level of college you go to, again, it has to be about what's a good fit for you, right? Not about hitting that D1, D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO, wherever you may fall on that spectrum. To me, none of that matters. I think it should be strictly about what's a good fit for you. Are you comfortable with the coach? Are you comfortable with the atmosphere of your potential teammates? Do you like the geography of where you are? Can you deal with playing in the mountains or at the beach or in the middle of nowhere, Georgia? Whatever you may be, or can you deal with being right downtown of a city, of a large city, metropolitan area? So those are the factors that I think that truly matter. The level, it's honestly peanuts, and I know some of you may disagree, and that's totally cool. But again, to me, that's one thing that doesn't matter. The second thing that doesn't really matter in our sport to me is the he said, she said, or like the latest gossip or tea or what have you. And I kind of alluded to this a couple of episodes ago, talking about like Snapchat and stuff like that. But I think sometimes we as players and even high schoolers really, we get caught up on what's going on, like what's the buzz, what are they saying in this corner or what are they saying in that corner. And this is really even off the field stuff as well, right? Like this is not even involved in with a game exactly. Like it's about the game of life, so to speak, right? And and I had a couple of my players check me on this. They're like, Coach D, We girls are not the only one who gossip, right? The guys gossip, or they have their group chats and all that stuff or whatever. So I won't just say the girls, guys as well. But like, here's the thing, if you're being talked about, that probably means you're one of the popular kids, or you're an intriguing person there at the school, right? But either way, at the end of the day, rather, don't let all of that noise bog you down, right? Let your game speak for itself, let your academics speak for themselves, and let the way you carry yourself speak for itself as well. Don't worry about the naysayers. Don't worry about what people are talking about, and how they're carrying on about who you are and who you might be and who you may become in the future. You are who you are, and you're going to be who you are, and you're going to continue growing at a high clip as long as you stay focused on who you truly want to be. So again, don't worry about all that jazz. On that same vein, I would say number three is comparing yourself to others and their opportunities is not something that should ever matter to us. Okay, because who we are is very, very unique to us in our journey. If you're a believer in Jesus, like what God has planned for you, right? But whatever that looks like, and even if you're not a believer, whatever that divine intervention, or whatever that looks like for you and your lifestyle, that is the path that you're going to be on, right? And so comparing yourself to someone else, or trying to be someone that you're not, makes no sense, right? Especially on the ball. Well, I say especially, like especially in life, really, but specifically on the ball field. If you're a catcher, if you're, whatever position you may play, you be the best dang catcher you can be, right? You be the best first baseman you can be. Don't compare yourself to the girls on TV, right? They're good, right? They've owned their craft. They have built their network of people around them to help them get to where they've gotten. And you can, over here in your corner of the world, you can do the exact same thing at their level, or even better, or maybe not. But either way, don't worry about other people's opportunities. I heard this in business, and I've heard people say it plenty of times. Don't count another man's money, right? And what we mean by that saying is that don't count other people's blessings. Don't worry about other people's you know opportunities and shenanigans and things like that they've got going on. Worry about yours. Mind the business that pays you, right? I mean, there's a whole bunch of sayings that we can go on that front, but again, keep that in mind as you move forward. The fourth thing that I feel like doesn't really matter, and I have to remind myself of this as well. You guys may laugh at me about this one, but the things that you cannot control, the things that are out of your control, they don't matter. They don't matter in our game. And I'll tell you one thing that really just, whew, it burns me up all the time. And I can't control it, obviously. But man, when the weather gets in the way of our ball games, it kills me. I'm like literally, because I can see it. Like for example, we were supposed to have a tournament last weekend, right? And I knew the Friday before, based on the weather forecast, I'm like, all right, if this doesn't move or if this doesn't change, the probability of us getting to play is pretty slim, right? And like every second I get, I'm checking my phone. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it's like, man, this forecast is just killing us, right? And again, the weather is totally out of our control. And so the question is, should I really have been worried totally about that, like trying to check the weather? Because the weather was going to be what it was going to be regardless of whether or not I checked it, right? So again, things that are out of our control, don't bog your brain down with that type of stuff, right? Worry about the things that you can control, focus on those things. And things that I can control as a coach is how I design my practices, right? Like I can control that. I can, lock in on making sure that every opportunity we get to practice and every opportunity we get to get on the field with our team, we've designed a practice that's going to be productive for them. That's a controllable thing as a coach. For you as a player, what the umpire calls as a ball or strike is totally out of your control. But what you can control is what you swing at, right? And you can also control not leaving it up to him when you have 2 strikes. So again, everything out of our control, push it aside. Don't worry about it. Focus on the stuff that you can lock in on, and then everything will be what it's going to be. The fifth thing that I decided to write down on this one, because I think we can probably name 50 things, and I just decided to focus on 5 of them though, is one that I think is important, and it kind of goes a little bit back again. If you haven't seen episode number 4 with Maddie Speaks, and this goes back to kind of something she was talking about what makes a great coach in her mind. And I feel like the fifth thing here, guys, is that should not matter to you is a coach that doesn't respect you and who you are. And this is a big one. And the reason I put this on the list is because I had a conversation with a player who's not on our program, but it's a player that is actually looking to try out with us. And her one of her biggest keys is that she's just simply looking for a coaching staff that is truly going to encourage and challenge her. She felt like she was getting challenged where she was before, but the encouragement wasn't there. And I think there's an incredible balance that comes with that, right? I mean, you gotta kind of toe that fine line there as a coaching staff to be able to do that effectively. And I know I may miss the boat on that. Our assistant coaches and our other head coaches in our program, we may miss the boat on that from time to time with our players. But just know that, we are trying, right? We do our best each and every day to get that right. And I would like to think that all coaches across the world are doing that as well. But I do know, and I'm not naive, I know that that's not the case, unfortunately. So anyway, my point is that you want to be able to have a staff that respects you for who you are, and not just for what you can do for them. I think that is virtually peanuts, really, in the grand scheme of things. Who you are and what you bring to the table in terms of your character, your integrity. Those are the things that matter ultimately. And then respecting your game for what it is as well, right? Not sugarcoating things, not just again anything that can kind of make you feel uncomfortable and disrespected in a way that you don't feel strong enough to talk about with them, I think is out of bounds. So again, and again, this is, like I said, this is coming more from a conversation that I had that I'm obviously not sharing with everybody here on the show. But again, I feel like at the end of the day, make sure that you respect your coaches and your coaches reciprocate that respect to you, because at the end of the day, it is certainly an earned thing, not a given for sure. But you also have to be cognizant of the simple fact that it's a two-way street, right? It's a two-way street right there. And if you're giving everything you can to your coaching staff in terms of respect, you want to make sure that you're getting that dish back out to you. So again, that's going to wrap up this very first segment here. We're going to talk a little bit about one of our sponsors real fast, and then we'll get right back at you. Talk to you soon. Hey guys, thanks so much for pausing real quick on the show. I want to take a quick second here to highlight my company, Impact Financial Alliance. We are in the financial services business, and the one quick tip I want to give you, especially during the holiday season, is to set a budget and make sure that you live within your means. I know holiday shopping is among us, and we want to be a blessing to our friends and our family and attend all the parties and that kind of thing. But make sure that we don't go into 2024 with a deficit because of overspending during the holiday season, and just make sure that we are doing the right thing by our pocketbooks and our wallets. So once again, thank you for pausing. Let's get you right back to the show. Okay, guys, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the importance of and how to truly long toss. And I know as a travel ball coach, sometimes I can even gloss over this from time to time. I know I'm very, very cognizant of it, but sometimes it kind of gets thrown under the rug a little bit because we only see our players 1 to 2 times per week. And it's like, all right, I don't really have time for this because we only have them for such a small time. But there's certain things you have to make time for. And long toss and arm care is just it's a huge thing. And so we long toss. We did a little long toss challenge this week with our players at practice. And, arm strength and accuracy, those are the things that we're focused on, obviously, with long toss. And one of the questions I asked them is that what did you kind of learn about your body or your arm, even specifically, after you've long tossed for a little bit, right? And the consensus there was obviously that your arm is not a pitching machine. It's not a robot, right? You need the rest of your body to be involved with it as well, right? So once you get out to, 120, 150 plus feet, something like that, like you're pretty heavy, so you need to kind of get those legs involved, get some good hip action going on. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of your body that's involved with the ball getting to its destination when you're long tossing. And so, but some people don't understand like what's a good progression to go to. And when it comes to long toss, and I think a good one is one that last year. Well, I say last year, a few months ago, really. Between summertime and fall. Speaking of Maddie again, Maddie Speaks, who was on the show last week. She had a college long toss progression that we went through before she left. And, the simple progression was going from 30 feet to 60 to 90 to 120 or 110 to 120, something like that. And what we were doing there was that we were getting a good 20 tosses a piece, actually. She was getting 20 throws from 30 feet, 20 from 60, from 90, and all the way back. And, of course, eventually she had to get into a crow hop action, as she was doing that. And again, we're not going to wear the arm out. It's probably going to be a little sore after the first few times. We want to ice, we want to heat, we want to do the necessary things to take care of it in between long tosses. But I think it's an incredibly important thing to do. And so if it's not something that you do regularly, then I think it's a good habit to get involved with. Even if it's just once a week, once every other week, I think is kind of the max that I would want to stretch out the frequency there. I think it needs to at least be once a week, maybe even twice a week. And I know for pitchers, it's good to just have that. And again, that increases your arm strength. It increases your accuracy as well. So make sure you begin to add that to your weekly regimen if it's not already there. And again, guys, I'm not asking you to go out there and toss for an hour. Like long toss can be done within 15 to 20 minutes, truly, and get a good solid workout in doing that. So I hope that makes sense on that front. Another thing that I want to talk about as well is not really random, but it may be random to some of you, not random for me. Is just this idea, okay, of tagging the base runner as she's sliding in. Okay, now I mentioned earlier that where you go to college and all that jazz, like what level is not really a pet peeve. But man, the way that people tag base runners is truly a pet peeve of mine. It's not just my players; it's everybody across the board because I watch it and because I know it's a thing. Like, of course, I take advantage of it. When I'm talking to our ball players and talking to them of how to slide and things like that. But one of the things that I want you guys to understand when it comes to tagging a base runner, whether it's a base runner that's stealing or coming to your bag on a non-force out play or whatever, what is your primary job? Your primary job, guys, is to protect the bag, right? Protect the bag at all costs. Therefore, right, when we reach out and extend to go tag the runner and her foot slides up under, right? We're no longer protecting the bag. We're just out to tag somebody because that's what we've been taught to do. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense right there, right? So what we're trying to do, guys, is we want to guard that bag. And we were last week we had an indoor practice and we ended with some conditioning and we decided to play some 5-on-5 basketball full court for like 20 minutes straight, right? So that was a good up and down. I think we had a little quick 2 to 3 minute break, halftime or whatever, and we were back at it. So, but my point though is there, for those players who didn't really understand the game of basketball, the simple way in terms of playing defense you want to stay between the goal and the person you're guarding, right? The person that you're guarding, you're the defender, right? You want to stay between them. If the microphone is the goal, if you can see this show right now on YouTube, if the microphone's the goal and you're the defender and this is the offensive player, right? You want to stay sandwiched in between them. Okay, the minute the offensive player slips behind you, you're probably done. You're probably going to get an easy layup and they're going to score, right? That's actually how my team won. Go Rope. Anyway, but my point is the same scenario applies to us as protectors of the bag, right? When somebody's trying to get into a bag safely, we want to protect it. So that glove needs to stay right there in between them and the bag. We don't the minute we reach, we're done, right? Players who can effectively hook slide, players who have a great swim move, right? All of those types of things come into play the second we reach out. Okay? Again, using another analogy, when somebody arrives at your house, okay, we open the door up for them. Okay, we don't come outside, all right, and come behind them and push them through the door, right? That's kind of weird to do, right? We greet them at the door, whether it's a handshake, a hug, or whatever. But before they walk through that door, usually, or by the time as they're walking through the door, rather, we're greeting them. The same thing right there. We want to greet them with a tag, and hopefully a very hard, aggressive tag to whatever the first body part is that's coming into that bag. Okay, and I know, guys, that this isn't necessarily rocket science for any of you that may be watching the show, whether it's a player, coach, or parent. But again, this is something that we don't do collectively from all around the sport standpoint. We don't do that very well, in my opinion. The other thing on that front is we want to get a quick tag and get out of there, especially if there's other action going on the field, right? So often I'll see that, let's just say the the batter's hit the ball and she's got a chance to go to second. We got to play at third base, right? So that third baseman lays a tag on it, and she wants to sell that she's got the ball. I got the tag in there in time, so I'm going to keep it there. I'm going to keep locked in on the runner, obviously, waiting on the umpire to make his or her call. All the while, that batter is rounding first base, heading to second base. We still got a play going on, right? That umpire is going to make whatever call he's going to make, right? Because usually what he wants to know is, do you have the ball, right? Well, yeah, you got the ball. If you make a quick tag right there, and we're looking at the next play, well, obviously he knows you got the ball, right? So again, let's make a quick tag and get out of there. And a quick tag also, guess what that displays? Confidence. I got her. I'm on to the next, right? So again, a great just thing to think about, right? As the next time you hop on the field, if you're an infielder or whatever, if you're in that position to make a tag, make that quick tag, sell it, and get up out of there real quick. So I hope that makes sense to you guys on that front. We're moving pretty quickly today on the show, but we're going to take one more quick break here, and then we'll get right back at you again. Talk to you soon. Hey guys, thanks for pausing once again here. I want to highlight Flow Space, which is the beautiful office building here that we get to film our podcast in every single week. We've got meeting rooms, conference rooms, wide open areas where you can work. So many opportunities to be creative right here in your own right as an entrepreneur, a business owner, or even somebody that kind of manages a larger group of folks. So if you're ever looking for a space like this, check us out at goflowspace.com for more information. Thank you. All right, guys. Actually, I kind of told a little bit of a lie there about the ad break. We have one more after this, but I promise it'll be worth your time. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about figuring out how committed your players are to your team. I think this is an important topic for coaches, but players, keep tuning into this piece because I feel like it's important for you too. I know as a ball player formerly, I wanted to know that my teammates were bought in just as I was, and I think there's some clues that you can kind of point to see who's bought in, who's not, who's got a toe in the water, who's sitting on the fence, all of that jazz. And so I wrote down, I kind of thought through some questions to ask myself to figure out as even as a coach, if I'm looking at my team of players and even our organization, the Elite Diamonds organization, who's truly bought in? And one of the questions that I've always asked for forever really is, what time are they showing up to practice? Right? Are they showing up? I have some players like Kaylee and Mac who show up an hour early because they struggle with math sometimes, but but they're always early. But then we have some times where players are, rolling in right at 6 o'clock, for a Tuesday or Thursday night practice. Some who are showing up, which this doesn't happen very often, but who may be a little late. But from time to time, there's players who show up a half an hour late or whatever the case may be. And typically that's for good reason. Maybe they're coming from a school ball practice or whatever. But for you being our audience, coaches, players, what time are your people showing up for practice? And if they're not showing up on time, what's the reason that they're giving you for not being there on time? Because for me, at the end of the day, guys, we all make time for our priorities. There's no convincing me that if it's something that you care about, you're going to be on time for it. And I can't truly, in almost 5 years of coaching travel ball, I've coached, school ball for 3 years, softball wise. I've coached baseball, travel, and school. I've coached women's kickball, as I've alluded to before. I don't ever really recall me being late for practice as a coach. And that's something that I truly take pride in, because honestly, to me, late is anything less than a half an hour early, because I'm usually there anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour early, because I want to be there before every player arrives to greet them. I want to be having, I want to have the field prepped for the first few sessions of practice, whatever we're going through. And so my players usually know that they're probably going to see my car, when they get there, even the ones who show up almost an hour early, right? And so again, that's something, a good way to gauge. I wrote a couple other ones down though. Is that, what kind of attitude do they show? And this is a big one for me. And I didn't say what kind of attitude do they have. What kind of attitude do they show? Because there's a difference, right? What you portray is important, because that's what you're showing everybody. That's what you know that's what your coach sees, and that's what your teammates see, right? I've gotten different people tell me in different other sports, even they've had players that they show up to practice like kind of lackadaisical, or that they show up to practice like they're doing their coach a favor by being there, that would totally rub me the wrong way. And I'm very grateful that I don't have players that do that. But I couldn't imagine, right? Knowing me as a coach who volunteers my time, and even if you get paid for your gig, it doesn't matter. Coach who invests time in their players, that would really rub me the wrong way if my player showed up, or player of mine showed up as if I owe them something, or they're doing me a favor by being there. No, like if you want to be there, if you're there, I hope you want to be there, right? So again, what kind of attitude are they giving you? Do they want to be there? Are they prepared to learn new things? Are they excited about the opportunity? Because that's the player that I get jazzed up about working with at practice, in tournaments, and what have you. It's the player that is enthusiastic. Are they looking for the next thing for you to say so that they can improve their game? Are they chomping at the bits to learn more? Or when you're giving them constructive criticism, are they turning their head? Are they not even wanting to make eye contact with you? Are they looking down at the ground? Like what does that even look like? So again, to me, all of those things kind of go, into the whole attitude thing. This is one that I struggled with this one a little bit, the next one that I'm about to give you guys, because I know it doesn't really apply to everybody. But this one is, are they owning their recruiting journey if college ball is in their plans? And I use that term loosely, owning it, because I know that that may look different for everybody, depending on their personality or just various reasonings, I would say. And so but owning it to me is, are they emailing coaches? Are they putting themselves rather out there on social media in some way? Are they following your guidance and instruction, or somebody's guidance and instruction, to be able to achieve what they're wanting? Or are they just saying that they want something that they're not truly willing to work for? So again, like I said, I say that loosely, owning, because it looks different for everybody. But are they owning that? Are they putting the time? Are they beating down the door to make that happen? Right. So again, that's another indication. I think, again, it's a loose one, but it's one of the indications that I kind of look for on that front. Um, Another one is, how open are they to feedback when they're not struggling? And this is a big one for me, because I know that as a former player, like when I was struggling, give me everything you got. You know what I mean? And obviously, we as players, we got to filter things, especially if we're getting it from different sources. But when they're not struggling, when you're as a player, when you're not struggling, how receptive are you to feedback? Like, are you willing to hear it? Are you willing to really internalize it, embrace it, and then apply it to your game, or not? you know and so, because I think that's a good point to make, and I wanted to make that point today, because I've had players before um, come to me, and guys, they are eager for knowledge, right? They want to learn more, they want to hear more. And I'm gonna pick on a player right now. I'm not really picking on her, but pointing her out. Player that came to us back in this past January, and her name's Sam. And I think I may have talked about her on the show before, but Sam is a player, very, very humble, and she has really truly hit her stride within the last few months. Back end of travel ball season over the summer, and then school ball, man, she was just she was an animal. So, and then now obviously into fall ball, she's kind of continued that great progress that she's had. But man, Sam has stayed the course in terms of what we're doing in the batting cages, what we're doing on the field, making minor adjustments here and there. She is open and receptive to all of it, because she doesn't go into it with, I've been on a tear lately, I'm batting 600, forget what coach has to say. I'm just going to do me, right? Or what, that mentality, right? So again, I think that's a great indication of how committed your player may be to your program, to your organization as a whole, and so on and so forth. So another one, maybe two more, I guess, is that, do they act like they got to be the smartest person in the room, or are they looking again to learn more? And I think some players out there, now again, some players out there truly do know more than the coaches, sadly. Um, but again, I say sadly, maybe I take that back. It's not a sad thing. It's just, it can be a reality at times, right? Depending on your experience and expertise. And so I would hope that those type players are willing to, you know, share the love and spread their knowledge amongst other teammates. But do they have to be the smartest person in the room? Do they have to be the know-it-all? Do they turn their nose up at, things that may or may not be said, or whatever, that the coaches may be discussing, or what have you? So again, I think that's a great indication. And the last one here is, what are they doing between practices? Are they owning their process between practices? Because at the end of the day, I know, like, most weeks, if we practice Tuesdays and Thursdays most weeks, and so because of that, like, I know I'm going to get about 5 hours roughly with our players. We practice from 6 to 8:30 twice a week. So I got 5 hours with my girls. And usually we have anywhere from 10 to 13 players at most practices, except for today's practice. We're going to the movies, so pretty much everybody's going to be there. But anyway, beside the point. Anyway, so regardless, we're going to have about that that number. I got off topic. We're going to have that number roughly at practice. And so even in a 5-hour setting, when you have double-digit players, usually the player-coach ratio is about 1-5, or sometimes it can be better than that, 1-4 even. But either way, there's only so much work that can get done in that 5 hours. And usually it's going to be teamwork. It's not going to be a whole bunch of individual stuff. Therefore, the other 4 to 5 days of the week that we have that we're not playing in a tournament setting, you want to be making sure that you're getting your reps in productively, right? It doesn't have to be 2-3 hours a day. It can be half an hour a day, an hour here, whatever it is that you need to be getting in to be efficient, effective, and productive on the ball field is important, right? And so again, that's another great way to gauge what you're doing. And honestly, I pose this conversation from the light of, hey, coaches, here's a way to gauge how committed your players are. But hey, players, this is a great way to gauge how committed you are. Look in the mirror at yourself and go, hey, listen, what am I doing between practice? How am I acting at practice? What does my attitude look like? Do I need to keep that in check, right? Am I the smartest person in the room? Am I acting like that? Am I coming across that way, right? Those are things that you can ask yourself to make sure that you're, one, being a better teammate always, right? You're being a great player, right? You're being somebody that people want to be around, but you're also continuing to grow your game. Because I know for certain that as a coach, I don't know it all, and I don't pretend to know it all, right? That's why we have coaches around us. That's why we have players who grow. I mean, there's been things that I've learned from our players almost every time we hit the field, which is a beautiful thing because I take that, I amplify it, I study, I do my research, and I make it better, right? You can do the same thing as a player, though, right? You can study things. And studying means like that may be watching videos, that may be reading materials, that may be connecting with coaches that you don't normally talk to, whatever the case may be. But either way, I think there are plenty of ways to grow your game and get better and improve your commitment to your teammates and to your coaching staff. And I think that's an incredible thing that we all should be doing each and every day, that we hit the field together, because again, that buy-in always matters, right? We've got practices, we've got tournaments, and we've got team outings. Those are usually our, as I say, our elite diamonds. That's our softball program's 3 lanes, so to speak, right? Everything kind of falls within those 3 lanes, minus college friendlies and exhibitions and things like that. So I guess we got 4. But either way, we're practicing, playing, or hanging out. And so I'm actually going to talk about that here in a second in our open book segment. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure, guys, that you're being the best teammate that you can possibly be, and always make sure that you are, if you are the smartest person on the field that day, spread that love, right? Make sure that other people are getting some of that knowledge too, and you're not coming across as a snobby know-it-all, so to speak. So anyway, promise you this is our last ad break of the day. I hope this has been valuable to you thus far. We're going to jump into some of our open book segments. I'm going to talk a little bit about this college football hoopla as well, and we'll wrap up the show here in a bit. Hey guys, thank you for pausing one more time here before we get you back to the end of the show. I want to take a quick second here to highlight Hike the Mountain, led by my father-in-law, Jay Thompson. And what Hike the Mountain does is it focuses on personal development, guiding people through company culture. He does all kinds of workshops and things of that nature. So if they're ever looking for something like that for yourself individually or for your company, check him out at hikethemountain.org for more information. Thank you. All right, guys, welcome back one more time here on the show. So before I jump into the open book segments, this has been a wild week for anybody who follows college football whatsoever. I know some of our listeners and viewers don't really care much about that, but I'm gonna keep it brief. Here's my take on the situation, guys. I know that we're moving to a 12 team playoff next year. There's a lot of realignments happening with the SEC and the Pac-12 going away and the Big Ten and all the other conferences, doing all their things. I feel bad for Florida State. I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm a big LSU fan, so I could care less about Bama or Georgia getting in or not. But I'll leave it at that for now. I feel bad for Florida State because they had the perfect season, regular season. You couldn't have asked for a better season, right? Other than I guess just blowing everybody off the map. But they went 13-0. They were left out by the committee or whatever because of the injury, I guess, mainly to their quarterback. And I get it. It makes a less competitive matchup. But again, it's a because it's a situation where and I think the system's broken. That's my honest opinion on it. I think that it shouldn't be done by committee, and don't ask me how it should be done. I don't know, but I think there's a different way because if you look at it, other sports, right, don't really necessarily do that. You get in because of your resume and your record, and then you duke it out from there. Right. So again, I'm gonna leave it at that. That's a very touchy subject right now that a lot of people probably don't even want to hear about it this very second because I know we got a lot of Georgia fans who listen to our podcast. Again, LSU, we don't really have a dog in the fight right now. I think we wrapped up as number 13 in the country. I do know though that my guy Jaden Daniels, LSU quarterback, better win the Heisman Trophy. Nobody else deserves it more than he does. Shout out to JD5, that kid. So anyway, let's jump into the open book segment. I've got three questions here from three good friends, and the first one is from Tyler P. And he asked, "When is the best time to share the lineup with your players?" And I think this is a good question. So I've never really even thought about it. I just kind of have my way of doing things. I think it's kind of fluid. So I know for me, as a travel ball coach, and I say as a travel ball coach because I know things are different for high school coaches and college coaches. Just because the way the season works is a little bit different as well. But again, as a travel ball coach, I usually share our battery, so our pitcher catcher combos for usually this first 3 to 4 games days in advance, like a couple of days in advance. I like my pitching staff and my catching staff to know when they're throwing. Because in travel ball world, like we can start games at 8 a.m. in the freezing cold at 40 degrees, and then because we live in Georgia, our noon or 1 o'clock game can be 65. Right. Well, I know some players throw better in the warm than in the cold. Some players throw better coming out of the car, or they need a couple of games in playing other positions before they pitch. So again, my pitchers and catchers, I usually again let them know right away as soon as I can get the schedule, hashed out of where we're going to be and what we're doing. So like I said, 48 to 72 hours, Tyler, in advance that I usually do that. As far as the lineup though, we usually carry a bunch of utility players on our team, and so I don't really. I guess my players can check me on this if they need it, but usually I don't really share the defensive alignment with them until the day of, like that morning, what we're going to be doing, and usually I don't. I'll share it, half an hour in advance, or at least I try to. But unless we're at a showcase where you need to let a college coach or somebody that's coming to see know, like, hey, I'm going to be at this position at this time on this field. I don't usually share it to them until the day of, which is kind of how I roll on that front. So anyway, hope that helps you out there, Tyler. Number two, second question is from Chris W. And his question is, this is a good one. Should I let my son play on more than one travel team at the same time? Woo, this is a good one. And here's why I say this is a good one, because I've seen it done, even with a couple of players that have been in our organization before. And I'll just be honest with you, man. I see more drawbacks to it than I see positives. I really do. And it's because of the things that I alluded to in our last segment. Kind of, I guess those four things are four lanes for our program. We have practices, tournaments, college friendlies slash exhibitions, and we have team outings, right? That's a lot of lanes, if you will, right? And so therefore, there's a lot to add into the calendar. And so I know there's folks out there who are gonna they're gonna map out the schedule for both their travel ball teams if they're on two separate teams, right? And they're gonna go, okay, man, this is awesome. Like I'm gonna play on this team this week and this week, and we're gonna skip a week, and on the off weekends I'll play with this other team. And oh my gosh, there's only one weekend that overlaps, so I'll just pick one and we'll be good to go, right? But what about the practices? What about the team outings? What about getting rained out? Right? So and reschedules or whatever, right? Then that kind of throws everything off. So sure, can we look at both schedules for each team and kind of line that up perfectly potentially at the beginning of the year? Yes, but we also know schedules are fluid. Now I know I try to keep my dates concrete, like tournament wise, friendly wise, what we're gonna do is concrete. Or excuse me, when we're gonna do it is concrete. What we're gonna do may be fluid or whatever. But I don't know, man. It's just tough because to me, practice is not just about really the individual. Individuals, you're going to get hitting lessons, you're going to get batting, fielding lessons, pitching lessons, you name it, whether it's with your coach or, somebody giving you lessons or whatever off the team. Practice to me, guys, is for that development with the team, right? For example, if you have a shortstop on your team and she never comes to practice because she's somewhere else. Well, your bunt coverages, the way that you cut off the ball, things like that are chemistry based are going to be off. There's no doubt about it, right? Just imagine your catcher not coming to practice for a second. Players, imagine your catcher's not being at practice with you. Usually on cutoffs, she's one of the most vocal people, if not the most vocal person on the field, letting everybody know, hey, we're cutting four right here, cutting hole, cut three, we're doing this, right? That's not always going to be perfect or close to perfect as it could be if she's not attending practice. Um, if she's at every other tournament, again, it's just a lot, right? Team outings. I know some parents may like poo-poo team out, maybe not poo-poo team outings, but like they're like, those aren't important. They are. They are. I guarantee you they're important. And for guys and the girls, I've seen it be important to them, right? I've seen a we've got a player on our team right now, and it's so cool. It was so cool to kind of watch her journey develop on our team because she joined us in January actually with Sam, and her name's Maya, and she joined the team, and she's a bit of a character. I love her to death. And but she joined the team early on, and she's like, I don't really think y'all liked me at the beginning. And some players actually admitted, like they're like, we're a little bit iffy on you, but you grew on us, obviously. And so, but we grew on her, and she grew on us, and it's a beautiful thing. It's harmonious now, honestly, and I love it. But for Maya, man, one of the things that I think about for her is that chemistry, man, was so important to her, right? And I think about one team outing that we went on earlier in the year. It was a couple of months into the spring season, and that team outing, we took the team to Six Flags. That was our Christmas gift to the team for this year. And I think we went in April, kind of right when Six Flags opened up in Atlanta, and so we had a great time. It was an awesome time, and I won't tell Maya's business about Six Flags and the funny stories that we had there. We'll keep that in house, but it was an incredible time. We had a bunch of fun, but I know for certain from that weekend on, Maya's progression and her feeling of belonging with our team amplified so much more than it had even in the first couple of months. right? That was big for her. And so I know that team outings are important. I know I'm kind of getting long-winded, Chris, on this question, brother, but to me, playing on two separate teams, it's tough. It really is. And I think you also have to consider burnout as well, right? Because again, the love of the game, we want to always keep that at the forefront. Okay. And as excited as that player may be at the beginning of, yo, I get to play on two teams. I'm gonna be playing ball every weekend. Like it's gonna be awesome. You don't want her to wake up in the middle of the summer and go, oh, I don't really want to play for this team today. Like I'd much rather go play with them. You don't want that. You don't want it to feel like a chore, a job, especially early on, right? You want her to keep that love for the game as long as she possibly can through school ball or grade school rather, and into college ball, and hopefully even beyond if she can get there. So again, man, I hope that answers your question on that front. Sorry to get on the soapbox there about the practices and the outings and whatnot, but again, is that stuff is important, and because that's important to me as a coach, I know that having our players be a part of as much as she possibly can is important there. And if she's having to split time with another team, that's going to make it really difficult, I would say. So hope that makes sense there to you, brother. All right. So last question. This one's from a good buddy of mine. His name's Sean T. And I'm gonna have to give his question a little bit of context. But he says, "Why are you so weird about a player's batting average?" And here's the context on this. We were having a conversation of judging players' productivity, and he is very much hell bent on looking at the batting average, and that's it. And that's kind of his thing. And I'm like, listen, bro, I don't really look at that. Like, I don't. I mean, I do look at batting average, but it's not the only thing that I look at. And honestly, there's two stats that I focus on a lot. The number one stat is on base percentage. Like when it comes to productivity in a tournament setting or a game or whatever, are you getting on base? Okay, that's it. I don't really care how you get on base. I care how you get on base in practice. Like in practice, I'm trying to help you increase your batting average. And now I'll talk about that all the time. Like we're working on your swing, we're working on mechanics, we're making tweaks, doing everything we got to do to make sure that you can barrel the ball up, hit the ball hard, and beat as many pitchers as you possibly can. Right? That's batting average talk. When the lights come on and it's time to figure out how to get on base, like I don't really care how you do it. Let's just figure it out. If you strike out 3 times and it's on a drop third strike and you get on base every time, well, dadgummit, I guess we got to keep you in the line. I'm kidding, but like again, my point is on base percentage matters to me most in games, and then believe it or not, it's a more of a next level analytical stat. I'm not a super big analytics guy, but I can get into it some. Is our contact percentage, and for those of teams out there that keep Game Changer, again, it's kind of one of those secondary stats, and it's really just again how often are you truly making contact with the ball? That matters to me, right? Swing and misses, and looking at strikes going by and stuff like that. That gets under my skin, right? And so, well, not so much swing and miss, but more the strikes, looking at them rather, backwards K's type stuff. And so, again, all that to say, on base percentage is something that really matters. And so, Sean, to answer your question, man, I'm weird about that because I just don't think that your batting average always tells the full story. And I think our on base percentage is something that can truly, be a little bit better indication of a player's effectiveness for the team, so to speak, in a tournament setting. So I hope that helps out on that front, brother. I know you were being a little bit facetious with that question, but for those of you who are wondering why I'm weird about that, there's your insight on it. So anyway, so that's going to wrap up our open book segment for today, guys. Ultimately, that's about to wrap up our show because I want to give you one quick thought you should know moment before we go. I saw this a couple of days ago. I felt like it was worthy enough to share with everybody. So I think I saw this on Facebook, and it just said the best 6 doctors on the planet. Okay, hear this. The best 6 doctors on the planet are sunshine, water, rest, air, exercise, and our diet. And I think we can elaborate on each of those in different ways. I'm not going to bore you to death with that right now, but just think about those 6 things for a second, right? Those are 6 things on our planet that are important, right? And they can be really important to just our effectiveness as a human being. They can be important to just our ability to live at a high level, live for longevity, right? For a long time, not just a good time, right? So I just take that for what you want, right? Take it to the bank wherever you want to take it. But that's just something that I felt like it was good enough to be able to share with you here on the show today. And again, as I always try to add value to you in your life, players to your game, coaches to your style of coaching, and parents also to you as well. That is my mission. That is my goal. I pride myself on doing that, and I hope thus far we've done that with our previous guests and Maddie and our future guests. Next week we're going to have my good friend, my brother, Demarius Zachary on the show. So be ready to tune in next week because we had some fun shooting that episode as well already. But again, guys, I'm always looking to add value to your life. I'm always trying to figure out ways to just give you nuggets to amplify your game and help you grow it. So if you have questions for me off the record that you don't want me to ask on the show, or if you have questions that you want me to add to the show for other people to be able to listen to and hear feedback on, or even if you disagree with me about something that I've shared on the show, please share it with me. I think discourse is such a beautiful thing as long as it's done with respect, and I think it's a great way to find common ground. I think hearing differences and opinions and things like that do nothing but add value to all of us. So I'm going to sign this show off like we always do. And so at the end of the day, guys, please let all you do be done in love, because truly that's what makes the world go round. Thank you all so much again for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.